video and let's talk about it.
Question, if we're supposed to pay reparations, let's just say we are, how can you be sure that you descended from slaves if you don't even know who your dad is?
I'm Dr. Michael H. Ford, and let's talk about what you just saw. She said if we're going to pay reparations, how can black people even prove they descended from slaves if they don't know who their dad is? Two attacks in one sentence. Let's address both. First, reparations. America has paid reparations before, and the receipts are specifically American. After World War II, the United States government paid Japanese American families over $1.6 billion for being wrongfully interned on American soil. And after slavery was abolished, that same United States government paid slaveholders, not the enslaved, an average of $300 per enslaved person for their lost property. That money was documented, that money was distributed to the oppressors, not the oppressed. The only group America has refused to compensate is the group that built this country for free for 246 years and generated an estimated $14 trillion in unpaid labor. The precedent exists, the infrastructure exists, the will does not. Second, proof of lineage. The Freedmen's Bureau compiled over 1.5 million records documenting enslaved and formerly enslaved people after the Civil War. Plantation records, property records, and census documents have been sitting in federal archives for over 160 years, specifically identifying who was enslaved, where, and under whose ownership. The United States government has had this documentation for over 160 years and has done nothing with it. The paper trail she thinks does not exist has been federally archived since 1865. The proof was never the problem. The willingness to act on it is. Third, the father comment. The United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world. Black men represent 13% of the American population, but 38% of its prison population, and according to the United States Sentencing Commission, black men receive sentences on average 19.1% longer than white men for the exact same crime. She used a stereotype manufactured by the exact system she is defending to dismiss a conversation about repairing the damage those systems caused. And while we're here, let's address the myth directly. The CDC, not a black organization, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, published a study finding that black fathers are more involved in their children's daily lives than fathers of any other racial group. 70% of black fathers who live with their children bathe, dress, and care for them every day, compared to 60% of white fathers. 78% eat meals with their children daily. Black fathers are present. The narrative that they are not was built by the same system that has been separating black families since slavery. So she asked that question with zero facts and complete confidence, but we know the truth. We know who built this country. We know who the records protect. We know who the system was designed to break. We know who is still standing anyway, and we know exactly who black fathers are because the data said so, history said so, and our family said so long before she opened her mouth. Healing starts with knowing, follow for more.
Okay, so let's get on to this conversation because I've been going over Senate Bill 1331, and the real issue within the United States with regards to fatherhood within the Black American community, it all stems from this aspects of white supremacy. First of all, we got to think about the AFDC program. This is the social services program that was started, which took fathers out of the home in the first place, made pretty much the government the father in the black household, the Black American household, and then he goes into mass incarceration, and then you got to think about the war on drugs, and in addition to that, you got to think about how there has been a cure for drug addiction since the passage of this, I think it was the Substance Abuse Act, and they classed a specific drug that would help to relieve addiction, but particularly as they wanted to do it with fentanyl at the moment, but also for crack cocaine, and they classified the drug so it couldn't get studied and it couldn't be used for things like addiction to crack cocaine, while at the same time using the black community, the Black American community, to absolutely fund the war on drugs. Excuse me, not fund the war on drugs, but fund the wars of other countries. Fund the coups of other countries, such as Colombia, things like that. So here we are. We're talking about this whole reparations thing, right? And I've been going over, like I said, I've been going over Senate Bill 1331, which was authored by Senator Bradford. Let's get his first name real quick. Let me see if it's on here. Okay, Senator Bradford. One thing, I knew I did not like this bill, and I'm going to express to you why. Because I'm going to give you his first name, and I'm going to give you the district he works for. And I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to read it to you right here. And I knew it was something wrong with the bill. So first of all, let me read subsection. Let me see. This is out of section. Oh, so this is all right. So this is going to be out of from the bill, the Senate Bill 1331. So this is going to be out of section 1, but from chapter 6.1, and then we're going to go down to 6631. So let me read this out to you first. There is hereby, no, excuse me, no, let me go right here, because this is out of 1331, out of 661, I'm going to go to B. So the funds for reparations and repair to justice may receive money for any other federal, state, or local grants, or from any private donations grant for the purpose of this chapter. So what is wrong with this? What I just read this section right here just to give y'all some clarity of where I'm at. What is wrong with this bill right here? What is wrong with this bill is this right here. The legislature intends that the benefit issues under this chapter be dedicated to policies and programs that addresses the harm that the state of California caused to descendants of African American chattel slavery persons, descendants of free persons, the descendants of a free black persons living within the United States prior to the end of the 19th century. Let's read this clearly. Let's look at this bill real clearly. Well, I've been talking about it. And I've been getting on Senator Kate Sanchez with regards to, that's in the state assembly, with regards to just to consider why wouldn't she want to approve this bill? She was one of the only ones that at first didn't want to approve this bill, just based off that she didn't want this to become out of taxpayer dollars and specifically charge Hispanic and Asian Americans who have been the primary beneficiaries of the Immigration Act of 1965 in terms of immigrating into this country. They are the primary beneficiaries of that bill. So she doesn't want these individuals to have to pay the taxes that would have come with regards to the passage of this bill. So as I look at this, I'm going a little bit more deeper to see what's wrong with this bill, because I just felt like there's something wrong with this bill. So the legislature intends that the benefits issue under this chapter be dedicated to policies or programs. Do you hear that? To policies or programs that address the harm that the state of California has caused to descendants of an African American chattel enslaved person or descendants of a free black person living in the United States prior to the end. So this is not a reparations bill. This is not a reparations bill that is going to go into the economic improvement on the basis of ensuring that these individuals, these descendants of black slaves, are, from an individual perspective, from an individual's perspective, from an independent perspective, can have the economic equality, can be trusted, I guess you would say, to use the funds however which they may choose to in towards their success. So this is another bill from the Democratic Party which regards the control, a freak of controls. They are the freaks of control. They want to control the money, give it to programs and set policies instead of giving it to the individual descendants of African Americans are the descendants of the African American who were enslaved. It sounds like the Democratic Party, right? But there's more. There is more. Because one of the problems that listed earlier in the show is that the problem with the Democratic Party is that they always try to double dip. So they want to use taxpayer dollars, right? Give money to organizations such as grants. Then these organizations turn around and give the money right back to these politicians in order to assist them with running their campaigns or campaign objectives. So when you read this and you see this, so to be dedicated to policies and promote programs that address the harm that the state of California has caused to descendants. So like I said, there's more though. So let's get on to the more. You know, I wrongfully pointed to an individual who I thought might be Mr. Bradford. But guess who Mr. Bradford is? And I can't keen on this picture right there. But Mr. Bradford is a black man. He's a black American. And I believe he's a former legislator. I don't believe he's in office anymore. However, before he leave, he tried to get this thing rolling. And you see this a lot of times because you see this with President Obama with the Fatherhood and Mentor Initiative, where he didn't give any of the acknowledgement to the fatherlessness of black men being in a black American household towards white supremacy. He gave the idea that it was just a black American problem. When, if you look to the bill would, you know, generally would go all into the focus with regards to all that, but it doesn't give any dedication to allowing the individual with the independence and pursuit of happiness, which is the philosophy that we have in this country, but gives the Democratic Party the right to control where these funds go, as California is a majority Democratic state. So as I go into more and I list and I find out that this is a black man who actually authored this bill. Here's the bill, and thankfully, because it was not going into the pockets of the descendants of slaves. It was going to go right back into the organizations and these politicians' pockets. So who are the organizations that necessarily Mr. Bradford will feel like his constituency are, right? So who was these funds going to be going to? As you can see that the bill failed and it only went to the the first chamber. So I went a little bit deeper, right? And I wanted to find out who was Mr. Bradford's constituency. And here they are. Mike McGuire for insurance commissioner in 2026, Equality, California. And my most daring in finding was, I believe, is the California Legislative Black Caucus Foundation. So you can pretty much see that all skinfolk ain't kinfolk in this instant right here. How we were about to get betrayed by Mr. Stephen Bradford as these dollars with regards to reparations and reparative justice was not about to go into the pockets of those who need it the most. I thought I should bring that up today. You know, it's sad that we see so much of this going on in the United States right now that it's just ridiculous. I necessarily don't get it. Like, what is the point of this? Is why the United States citizen needs to do more of a job with staying up to date with regards to policies, having an understanding that you are supposed to be the person who controls your representatives, right? This is why we vote. If our leaders controlled us, then we wouldn't need to vote. There would be no need for us to have a voting system, a democracy, and call this a democracy if we have an unintelligent voter base, or we have an unintelligent voter. And it's due to the fact that so many people are unintelligent that we allow these individuals to get away with so much. That we got to stop listening to just the words of their rhetoric, and we got to get more involved. Because Mr. Stephen Bradford is a prime example. As we just look to him as an influence in our community and think that because he's a black male, a black American male, that we can go off and believe everything that he's talking about. It sounds like Kamala Harris. And it's all primarily coming and stemming out of just one party, right? It's stemming out the Democratic Party. So when I say that there is two sides, that there's the Confederate side and there is the Union side. The Confederate side, you got the House, you got the House person who is going to fight on the slave master side in order to gain favoritism if that slave master ends up winning the war. And then you got the Union side. You got individuals who don't want to protest, the black American who not going to go out there and protest, and wants to fight on the side to where the laws are abided by in this country as such, to which makes this country great. Because when you think about $14 trillion back in 1865, that amounts to over 283.64 trillion in today's numbers. There has been no more of a bigger benefit to the United States than the economics that slavery has contributed to this country. And without thinking about the economic benefits, think with regards to culture. Like I said, when you see the Constitution of the United States, you see a black history and a white history in America. And because this whole idea with regards to white supremacy under Lyndon B. Johnson, under Richard Nixon, under Ronald Reagan, the culture of it after slavery, the country has been so diluted and diluting the black American rights. You have so many people that is not supposed to be in this country and who are. When you look at the Constitution and all you see is a history of black American and white Americans. This is why black Americans and white Americans need to have this talk as we push forward to get our country back. Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live Show, man. Always remember to like, share, subscribe to the channel.
We are the essence of God's image. We are the representation of God's love for His creation.